This week is Parshat Zachor, and so in addition to being Parsha VAYIKRA, I wanted to speak to you a little bit about Zachor. Next week, what we'll do is we'll focus a little bit on Purim, but this is sort of like the Vorspeise. We'll get a little bit about Parshat Zachor and begin a little bit talking about Purim. Now, to really understand what the story of Purim is all about and how it ties into our Haftorah for Parsha Zachor, which is, the Parsha Zachor is the mitzvah to remember Amalek, to remember to destroy Amalek. It is a positive commandment in the Torah that you must timche et zecher Amalek, to destroy the memory of Amalek. We're not going to get into the theology of what it means to destroy the memory of Amalek, but at least we know that Amalek represents an existential threat to the Jewish people. Yes?
They still do.
What's that?
I said they still do.
Yeah, Amalek exists in many guises today. Unfortunately,
we don't know who Amalek is today, do we?
Well, it's an open-ended question, because we tend to identify Amalek with anyone who's an anti-Semite and tries to wipe out the Jews. So
we need to kill them all.
No. I didn't say kill. I never used the word kill.
Oh, wipe them.
So wipe out Amalek is a positive commandment. There's a positive commandment in the Torah that when there is a king of Israel, you need to, before you build the temple, to destroy the people of Amalek to the best of your ability within the borders of Eretz Yisrael. That's a very specific commandment. But there's a more general commandment to wipe out the Amalek that exists in a more generic sense in the world, which is the enemies of the Jewish people, not to actually take their lives, but to eradicate Amalek. And how we do that is the topic of much discussion. Okay? In source number 2 is really what I want to start with. You know, there is this very dramatic point in the story of the Megillah that we're all familiar with, where Mordechai tells Esther, you know, there's this decree against the Jews, and you've been chosen because you are the queen. You have a role to play in the salvation of the Jewish people. And Esther is very hesitant. She says, Kizeh shaloshim yom, it's been 30 days since the king has requested an audience with me. He's got a whole harem of women. If I just barge in like that, he may kill me. And so, and Mordechai says to Esther, don't think that this is a very light thing, that the Jews are going to be able to escape this attack against them without your help. And in Pasuk Yudalid, in Perek Dalid, he says, Ki im hacharesh tacharishi ba'et hazot. He says, Esther, you need to understand something. If you are silent now, revach v'hatzala ya'amod la Yehudim mimakom acher. There will be salvation and a sense of greatness that the Jewish people will experience independently of you. It'll come from somewhere else. Ve'atu veit avich tovedu, and you and your father's house will be destroyed. Umi yodeya im la'et kazot higa'at lamalchut, and who's to say that if it's only for this reason alone, for this moment, that you have been chosen to be the queen? It may be that the only reason that you're queen is because you have a vital role to play at this, just at this moment, at this juncture of your life. It's a very dramatic statement because it speaks to every one of us. Now, what does Mordechai mean that if you don't step in and speak up, then you and your father's house will be wiped out? What does it mean, you and your father's house? There was no father's house. Esther's parents had already died. And that's what we point out in the first verse. Uvemot aviha v'ima lekacha Mordechai lo levat. When her mother and father died, Mordechai adopted her as a daughter. And so what is Mordechai actually saying to Esther, that you and your father's household will be destroyed? she's an orphan. She doesn't have a home to go to. So there are a number of commentaries. One of them is the Ri ibn Shu'ib, who was a student of the Rashba in the 13th century. And he states as follows, Ve'atu veit avich tovedu, Amar lezeh al inyan Shaul, shegaram kol zeh shehechiyat Agag. What he was basically telling her is that you have a role to play to repair or to directly address what your ancestor Shaul did. Because you, Esther, just as I, Mordechai, am, we are both Benjaminites. We are both from the tribe of Binyamin. And Shaul, the first king of Israel, was from Shevet Binyamin. And he is responsible for the fact that Agag, king of Amalek, was allowed to remain alive, and so was his harem. And it is from that Amalek was allowed to propagate and perpetuate. And maybe the whole reason why you are queen now is that your role is to atone for the mistake that your grandfather Shaul made. That's what Mordechai was trying to communicate to Esther. You have the ability to rectify the wrong that your father Shaul did. Now, in order for us to understand the association between Esther's act of standing before Achashverosh and getting the king to intercede and what Shaul did wrong, yes, it's true, Haman is an Amalekite. He's an Agagite. He's an Agagi. Haman ha'Agagi. So therefore, your grandfather Shaul let Agag live. Haman is his descendant. If you allow him to move further with his plans, you'll only be allowing Shaul's mistake to really come to fruition. So you have a responsibility to fix the mistake of your grandfather. Yes?
But I always wondered, even without that whole thing, why didn't Esther herself realize that the reason she was queen is to save the Jews? Why else would she have done this?
This happened 8 years after she became queen. In other words, when you go through life, it's very hard to make that association. No one understood why a Jewess became the queen. Esther herself didn't understand what it was for.
But wasn't it very odd for Jewish to marry a non-Jew?
Exactly.
I don't. We're superimposing a 21st century attitude towards intermarriage to something that happened over 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, between the first and second temple, where there was a huge degree of assimilation and intermarriage in the Babylonian and Persian exile. So the Persians were very happy to marry Jewish women. Esther didn't have a say in the matter. She was called, just like all of the other women in the kingdom, to participate. And so it just so happened that Achashverosh had this attraction for Jewish girls. But there's nothing unusual about it from a Persian perspective, not at all.
I always thought the reason Mordechai and Esther did this is because they knew that it was important for her to be in a place of power to save the Jews.
Well, that's one way of reading the story, but if you look at the story just textually, you'll see that there's no indication from the story itself that they understood what was happening. Maybe they did. Maybe they said, oh, this is from Hashem, that there must be a divine reason why. But clearly, when it comes 8 years later and Esther is called upon to act, she's thinking to herself, why do I have to do anything? What does this have to do with me? She's not aware yet until Mordechai brings it to her attention. Now let's take a look at the story of...
She's a Jewish person. She can't keep Shabbat. She can't hardly keep Kodesh.
What
is she doing there?
She was in her own way keeping Shabbos.
Yeah, she was, but she had to hide it, sort of.
Did she wear a sheitel also?
I don't know. Probably not.
Did she make shtisel challah after Pesach?
Schlissel.
Schlissel challah. Yeah.
What have you been watching?
Because you have to watch the same if you're not the same.
So when did it evolve that we should not marry goyim?
Oh, it's always been that way.
Okay.
It's always been that way. But you have to appreciate there's been different iterations in Jewish history where certain things were strong and other things were weak.
100 years ago, if your child married a goy, they sat shiva. So,
That's right. That's right.
So like
And 100 years ago, there was also a sign in the shtibel that said "Asr lahakot be'egrof," that you're not allowed to get into fistfights in the shul. My Rebbe told me that he saw that in Europe.
Maybe we should put up the signs.
Now, so what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Can you imagine two Jews hitting each other?
Yeah.
Right? It's such a fundamentally wrong thing, right? But different cultures breed different behaviors, okay? And so we have certain behaviors today that I'm sure in a century from now people will be horrified about because of the lashon hara that we speak, the backbiting, the internecine fighting that goes on within the Jewish community. Patricia.
This is pretty much an aside, but it's an illustration of what you just said. Leon told me that when his parents returned to Paris after coming out of hiding during the war, they went back to the shul they went to always, the Rashi Shio. There were two groups in the congregation, Hungarians and Poles. And for the high holidays, they had to hire a non-Jew to deal with the fights that would go on over who got which aliyah between the Hungarians and the Poles. And this was after the show.
Yeah. Can you imagine them doing a sociological study on early 21st century Judaism, let's say 100 years from now? And they're going to do a study on synagogue life in the early 21st century. And they're going to say, in the Orthodox synagogue, what was common practice was that people would come 1 to 2 hours late to synagogue and would, by and large, not pray other than, say, a few 5 to 10 minutes of prayer. And then they would go outside in the middle of their prayers to be able to have graham crackers and herring.
Okay.
Do you understand how abominable that looks from an objective standpoint? There are so many behaviors that we do today that are just no good.
I agree.
And we are intellectually aware of them, we rationalize them, we poo-poo them, and we accept them.
Well, we don't accept them. We just have to.
We shrug our shoulders at best. If we're not engaging
If
in them.
everyone's going to marry non-Jews, but they also had an idea that there will be
look,
no Jewish nation.
The first temple was destroyed. The Jewish nation was in tatters. There was cognitive dissonance in the sense that we had always been promised that we would, with the building of the temple, we would be a unified people, and all of a sudden, there's no temple anymore. First time in centuries that we were it's the first time in Jewish history that we were steadily on the ascent, and now all of a sudden, everything is gone.
So they were depressed, maybe.
Depressed, completely bereft, completely disoriented. These things happened at different stages in our people's history. In any event, so let's take a look at the story in the Haftorah. This is in the times of, yes?
It's very difficult to put ourselves in that time period to really understand what was going on. But doesn't it say in there, even Mordecai, who was the wisest man, says, maybe this is why you were chosen to be queen. He doesn't say, I know.
That's a great point. He himself, I said, he can't confirm for sure that that's why she's there. But who knows? This may be the reason.
But didn't he encourage her to go into the...
Yes, that's what he's telling her. He's saying, you've got to go because you're our last hope, Esther. Now, the story of Shaul's mistake is characterized in the psukim in the Haftorah as follows. Starting with pasuk Tet Zayin, where Shmuel rebukes Shaul after he's allowed Agag and his harem to remain alive. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul, Heref v'agida lacha et asher diber Hashem elai halayla vayomer lo daber. Allow me to tell you what God told me tonight. And Shaul says, please go ahead. Vayomer Shmuel, halo im katona ta be'enecha? Are you so small in your eyes? Rosh Shivtei Yisrael ata. You are the head of the Jewish people, head of the tribes of Israel. Vayim shachacha Hashem lemelech al Yisrael. God has anointed you to be king over all of Israel. And God sent you on a specific task and to telling you to destroy the sinful Amalekites. And you have to completely annihilate them. V'lama lo shamata b'kol Hashem. Why then did you not listen to the voice of God? And you allowed some of the spoils to remain, and you did that which was evil in God's eyes. How could you do that, Shaul? Let's focus on the words, Halo im katonata be'einecha. Are you so small in your eyes? What does this have to do with Shaul's smallness? If Shaul took it upon himself to disregard God's command, why is he being accused of being small? He shouldn't be accused of being small. He should be accused of being wayward, of being rebellious, of being disobedient. But why small? The Radak tells us why. Halo im katonata, says the Radak, lefisha amar lo Shaul, asher chamal ha'am, because what did Shaul say? What was his excuse? He said, the people, what do you expect of me, Shemuel? The people felt such Rahmanas. They felt such compassion upon the Amalekites. How could I be so cruel? How could I go against the will of the people who told me that I have to be a bleeding heart and a compassionate person? How could I disregard them? Kolomar ha'am chamal v'lo hu v'lo ratza lemon am. I can't stop them from their compassionate desires. Omar lo Shmuel. So Shmuel tells him, Halo im katonata be'einecha? Are you so small? Kolomar. Afal pi she'ata katan be'einecha v'lo ratzita lihitgadel al ha'am u'lamon am. I understand. You felt that it's the will of the people. You felt that the will of the people is to be compassionate, and you didn't want to stop them. Halo rosh shivtei Yisrael ata. U'lefichach mashchacha Hashem lemelech aleihem. But that's not your role. This is not a democracy. Your role is not to follow the will of the people. Your role is to take charge. God made you king because your responsibility is lahanhigam al haderech hayishara ulemon'am me'havera. You're supposed to guide the people and show them where they're supposed to go, not to follow them. You're supposed to prevent them from going down the wrong path. Ve'eich hinachto otam la'avor al divrei Hashem. Lo asuhem ela ata. How could you allow them to take the wrong direction? It's not their fault, it's your fault. Because shehaya biyadcha limchot velo machita. Because you had the ability to stop them and to protest, and you didn't. You didn't step in when you should have. You saw the people doing something wrong and you just let them go ahead and do it. You didn't take any initiative to try and stop them. And therefore, nir'eh ki ratzoncha v'cheftzecha haya b'davar, v'chemdata shalal v'ta'at elav. And therefore, it must be that you sympathized with them in some way. And just as they wanted to be compassionate, and just as they wanted to partake of the spoils, there was part of that in you as well. You allowed yourself to be swayed by the voice of the people.
When it says the spoils, does that mean agag?
No, it means the sheep, because part of the things, he also left alive all of the livestock.
Yeah.
That's why Shmuel says, Uma hakol hazeh be'oznai. What is the sound? Kol hatzon hazeh be'oznai. What am I hearing? The sound of the braying sheep. Now, then he says, the Radak then says, V'yonatan tirgeim hapasuk ki halo min sharyutach havita shayit. That, he says, from your permissibility, you went against your heritage. And what does this mean? V'chein omar bidrash ki kisha'avru Yisrael at hayam v'hayu mityariim Yisrael la'avor. He says, let's go back even further in history. When the Jewish people were standing at the Red Sea, and everyone, Moshe said to them, go, God will perform a miracle for you. No one wanted to step into the ocean first. So the Medrash says, it's in the Mechilta, the Medrash says, V'hitchilu kafat shivto shel Binyamin v'hitchilu la'avor. Shevet Binyamin were the first ones who said, we'll do it. we know that we have to take the initiative, and if we take the initiative, God will allow us to be successful. V'ra'u shevet Yehuda v'yitchilu l'rogmam ba'avanim k'dei sheyachzeru lahem. That the tribe of Judah tried to stop them and tried to pelt them with stones. It says, no, we don't want you to be the first ones. We want to be the first ones. V'kafatz Nachshon ben Aminadav ve'avar im kol shivto ve'acharav kol Yisrael. And then finally Nachshon ben Aminadav from the tribe of Yehuda goes in and everyone else follows. V'samchu ala pasuk hazeh Shem Binyamin Seir Rodem Al Tikri Rodem El Reid Yam. V'chetiv Batrei Sharei Yehuda Ragamatam. We won't go into that right now just to be able to trace it in the psukim, but the bottom line is that what you have done, Shaul, by allowing yourself to be a follower of the people and not a leader of the people, is you have betrayed your heritage as a Benjaminite. You have allowed yourself to fall prey to what the desires of everyone else was, when in truth, your ancestry indicates that Binyamin is supposed to be a leader, supposed to take charge. And if he sees something wrong going on, he doesn't become a conformist, and he doesn't follow the herd mentality, but rather he takes charge himself. And therefore, your problem, Shaul, is you allowed yourself to be diminished and not to become a Benjaminite in this particular juncture. So just to bring this full circle, take now a look at an interesting commentary from a contemporary sefer, which is based on the Torah of the Chassam Sofer, called Chotam HaMelech. And it writes as follows. He starts off by quoting the fact that if you don't take action, Esther, there'll be salvation from somewhere else, and you and your household will be destroyed. So he asks a very basic question: why should Esther be punished? In other words, it's one thing to say, look, Esther, you should save the Jews, and you'll be the hero. And if you don't save the Jews, someone else will be the hero. But why say that as a result of letting someone else be the hero, you'll be wiped out? Why does Esther deserve to be punished for letting someone else take the initiative? And the answer is because not taking action when you're supposed to take action is in itself a crime, especially when you have the kochot, when you have the propensity, you have the ability to take action. Take a look at the sin of Shaul, who failed to kill Agag. Omar lo Shmuel halo af ki katon ata be'einecha rosh shiftei Yisrael ata. We know that when it comes to great Davidic kings, the kings of Israel, it says that his heart was elevated in the ways of God. He had a sense of ego. And Esther, at this particular juncture, was feeling somewhat diminished. She was feeling very low in her self-esteem. V'ita b'midrash she'amra shekvar azla mimena ruach hakodesh kvar lamed yomen. And the Medrash says, not only have I not been called before the king for 30 days, but God, the ultimate king, has also departed from me for 30 days, and I haven't experienced any kind of divine connection. V'haita nafsha shefela me'od v'chasra hamidah shel vayigba liba b'darchei Hashem. She was feeling very low about herself, very insignificant, and she failed to possess the necessary component that every Jew needs to have in order to be able to do something truly heroic in life, which is vayigba libo b'darchei Hashem, to have that sense of ego, to feel that I can accomplish something that no one else can accomplish. Now, that many times is a very bad trait, to have that sense of ego and to feel that I can do something that no one else can. But sometimes it's necessary, because if you really want to be able to fulfill that unique purpose that each and every one of us has, you have to at some time in your life realize that I can do something and I can accomplish something, and I'm placed in this position specifically because I need to take action. V'zehu sha'amar la Mordechai ki yem acharesh tacharishi ba'it hazot ratzah lomar she'im kein lo titaken chet zikena Shaul hamelech Delazetzrich davka ga'avat de kedusha, or geut de kedusha. He says, you will be destroyed because Shaul's mistake was not allowing his ego to prevail, not allowing himself to realize that he was placed in a unique position with unique abilities. And if you don't take action now, you'll be repeating his offense. And in order to destroy Amalek, you need to feel that sense of empowerment. We look at all of the anti-Semitism in the world today, and there are some of us who are ourselves self-loathing Jews, and we look at it today and say, well, maybe we deserve it. What have we done wrong to deserve the hatred of the world? And that's precisely what Esther's attitude could not be. What Mordechai was telling her is that you have to realize that you are a Jew and you have greatness within you. And Vayikba libo b'darchei Hashem, and you realize that because God has chosen you as the chosen people and as the chosen one among the Jewish people, you have a role to play to save the Jewish people. Don't allow the naysayers, don't allow the anti-Semites to tell you how bad you are, how bad Israel is, how apartheid Israel is. You cannot allow for those voices to squash you. He says, V'hinei Amalek gematria ram, shehu geut tum'ah. He says, Amalek in gematria is the word ram, which means elevated, high, haughty. You can have haughty people in a very evil way, and that's what Amalek is. It was their haughtiness that gave them the chutzpah to attack the Jewish people when we were leaving Egypt. But ubitulo hudaika al yedei geut dikdusha. How do you nullify evil haughtiness? You don't nullify evil haughtiness through holy humility. You nullify evil haughtiness through holy haughtiness. Ulahachi Mordechai shebitel Amalek hu otiyot ram dachi. And that's why if you take a look at the words, the letters of Mordechai, you could jumble them as ram dachi. Dahainu geut tahora. The word dachi in Aramaic means pure. And ram means elevated. So it's an elevation of purity or of holiness. Shemishtamesh b'midat ram v'geut rak l'darchei Hashem. You use the traits of haughtiness, the thing that you need to combat Amalek, and that's what Mordechai was communicating to Esther. Look at your Zayda, look at your grandfather. He made a tragic mistake by submitting himself to the will of the people and not exercising the haughtiness that is needed of a king. Don't make the same mistake, Esther. Don't allow the world to put you down. Don't allow the anti-Semites of the world to destroy us because we feel we've bought their message and we feel that we are insignificant to stand up against them. There are times to be meek and humble, but there are also times when you're facing existential threats that you have to stand up and say proudly, I am a Jew, and I will not allow anyone to harm us. And those who do are the evil ones. And we have to rise up and proudly say that the Jewish people will not stand for it. So that's the message, I think, of Amalek, is Amalek tries to put us down. Amalek tries to belittle us. And what we have to remind ourselves is the same position that Esther was in. We have to make sure that we don't allow ourselves to be humbled against Amalek. Any comments, questions?
Mordechai didn't bow to Haman.
Mordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachave. He did not bow down. Precisely.